We are live. It is Thursday, and this is the Rich Lieberman Media Pulse. Look, I tell it like it is, folks. I don't give you BS. I don't give you saccharine stuff. You can fault me for maybe being too emphatic every now and then, but I give it to you straight because I believe in giving you straightforwardness, no BS, no spin. Speaking of the devil, and I'm going to talk about today, I've written about this in the past, but these pre and post game shows, football, but at least there they have an excuse. You're talking about the NFL, you're talking about the top banana and all that. And it's a once a week deal. And that is the 49ers. But I can't stand these baseball, Major League Baseball pre and post game shows. They're nothing but propaganda. And the people that they have on these shows are mostly mediocre ex jocks, pretty much morons, schmucks, putzes, people who are supposed to give you supposedly the real deal. And of course, these ex jocks, they bring them in, folks, because, well, if you're not an ex jock, you have nothing to say. You can't say anything, which is ridiculous. But yet, here they are, they trot them out, and most of them are very, very boring. Like this guy, George Cantos, just vanilla. There's nothing there. It's boring. He says the same thing over and over and over. It's all Trek. I do like, and I want to compliment for a change, JT Snow. Now, why do I like JT Snow? Because he came out of nowhere. And what I like about JT Snow is at least he pretends to be objective. And he tries, wait a minute, let me rephrase that. He is objective. He'll tell it like it is. He doesn't sugarcoat. This is a guy who used to play for the Giants, right? All-star, great first baseman, very, very popular player. Had basically a very bad relationship with the Giants, namely Larry Bear. In fact, he told Larry Bear, you know what, go F you, basically. I heard the story. It was verified by many folks who I've spoken to. Look, that's not a big deal. It happens a lot, particularly when there are very popular players who, when they retire, maybe they come back in some sort of an ambassador role for their respective teams. Now, JT Snow was a very, 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 very popular Giant, right? Good looking guy, big hit with all the women who thought he was adorable and, this, that, and the other. But what I like about JT Snow is his broadcast work. He's great on radio as a commentator, and I wish I'd hear more of him, but that's not in the cards. I know he's going to be doing a lot of work for, speaking of NBC Sports Bay Area, and I hope to hear him. We all do. Well, some of you don't, but I like the guy on KNBR after the Giants post-game shows, pre-game shows. He gives you a very real interpretation. I love to talk. I love to hear him talk about his work with some of the younger players. Anyway, he makes it interesting. He's not a BSer. He's straightforward. He comes across as sincere, which he is. Hey, this is breaking news. He even makes FP Santangelo sound interesting. I heard JT about a week ago doing the post-game Giants on KNBR, that post-game show where they do a wrap and they talk about the evening's game and so forth. And it was interesting. he sounded cool. And he's very, very, very good. He's very underrated. I'd like to hear more of him and less George Contos, who doesn't say anything, and others. And look, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. You want to be critical when it's justified. I'm talking about all these players and not BS and have these, of course it helps if you had a good lead broadcaster on these shows. But again, folks, they're mostly propaganda shows. And it's the same tired formula day after day, night after night. Okay. And I realize we're not watching, Masterpiece Theater. We're watching a post-game show or a pregame show. That's even worse. And they give you a rundown of the game. They talk about who were the star players. They give you highlights. And it doesn't have to be the same tired formula. You could be critical players, but the players, by and large, are boring because they say the same things. And they don't want to criticize the players who are playing now. That's one of the deals. You can't rip. And there's a way of ripping and being overtly critical without being inflammatory. You just do your job. They know you're not playing anymore. You're in a different position right now. You have to be critical, particularly if you're coming on the air and talking after a loss. So take these shows with a grain of salt, as if most of you do anyway. And that's good, because watching them, they become monotonous and they say the same old thing. And pretty soon it's a broken record. In finishing this broadcast, again, I like JT Snow. I wish there were more players like it. And look, he played the game. He was a Gold Glove first baseman. He comes from sports lineage. His father was a star wide receiver for the Rams, Jack Snow. So he knows what he's talking about, especially in baseball, where he is ostensibly brought back by the Giants because he's interesting and he says something and he can be critical, but he does it in a manner in which viewers like it, and he has absolute credibility, not just because he played, but he did, but for the fact that you feel a realness, you feel a reality tone that sets in because the guy knows the players, teaches the players, and when it's time to be ripping someone, he does it, and I like that. Does it with a flair, and he does it having played the game, knows a thing or two about what he's talking about. I'd like to see more JT Snow. I really would, both on radio and TV, where he could be one of those elite color commentator guys, just like most of the other, well, not most, but a lot of the elite broadcast crews in baseball, like the Mets announcers and people like that. Keith Hernandez, another fellow first baseman, Ron Darling, people like that. Does a good job. I like John Smoltz on the National Fox broadcast. Some people find him boring. I find him interesting, watchable, listenable. I'll leave it at that. But these other guys and these other shows on NBC Sports Bay Area, oy vey, what a tired bunch of nincompoops.